I'm going to talk about nighttime sleep training and daytime nap training. And I'll start with nighttime sleep training and I'll just tell you what we did. We nighttime sleep trained our boy the night before he turned 3 months old or 13 weeks old. We didn't choose that night for that reason. The reason why it came to pass that we did it that night is because we had noticed in the days and nights before that our son was showing signs of training, or he was starting to train us because we would put him down at the bedtime hour, that 6 to 8 period roughly, and we weren't even necessarily shooting for that at that point, but that's how experts will say or suggest that sleep patterns will emerge, as I've said. And looking back at the records, that really was kind of how it played out. I mean, sometimes it would be that long night sleep would begin after 8 o'clock, but that 6 to 8 window was pretty accurate. In any event, when we would go to put him down at that time, he would have his pacifier in his mouth, and I would be shushing him and stuff. And maybe we got the sound machine turned on in the room, and I would go to put him in the crib. We noticed that he was purposely kind of spitting out that pacifier to get our attention and get me to come back, because it would happen right at the beginning of the night before he even fell asleep. And I'd put him down, I'd go to leave before I even get to my bedroom, my wife and I, our bedroom down the hall. She would see on the monitor, and I would hear fussing and maybe even crying because he spit out the pacifier. So I'd go back, put the pacifier back in, and sometimes before I got to the bedroom, or by the time I got to the bedroom, he was at it again. And we were able to figure out, at this point he's got extended wake times now. He's more conscious and alert. We know our kid, and it was evident to us that he was basically trying to communicate with us, and he was figuring out that if this pacifier goes out, mommy and daddy will come back in. So it's not that we set out to do it any particular night, but we had read in Dr. Weissbluth's book, that a sweet spot for sleep training is in the 4th month, because babies, if they're growing and are healthy and things are going well, that's when they will begin to exhibit more self-agency, which means the capacity to understand that they can protest, they can express themselves, and that they can that they can understand that you'll respond to their behavior. So that's what I said kind of tongue-in-cheek a minute ago about he was training us. He was conditioning us to come back because he didn't want to go to sleep just yet. He wanted to spend more time with mommy and daddy. And he didn't understand that what he really needed to do was sleep, and that tomorrow was going to be a new day and he would see us again, and we could pick up where we left off. So that night, I probably happened 2 or 3 times before we pulled the plug on it. He spit out the pacifier. The third time, I just took the pacifier with me and didn't look back, walked away, and we let him cry it out. Now, you may read a lot online about different methods of sleep training. People will refer to the cry it out method, sometimes referred to as the extinction method. I think neither that term or phrase is, maybe the best way of putting it, because it's got, connotations that might put people off. Letting a baby cry it out, or extinction, whatever that means. But truly, it is the natural way. If you think back on human history, antiquity, it is the natural way for babies to learn to self-soothe and fall asleep on their own and put themselves back to sleep. And doctors, nurses, and experts that you will talk to will tell you that it is a safe, fast, and effective way of teaching your baby to sleep through the night. The more you have put your baby down drowsy but awake in the time leading up to this, the more you have put him on his back in his own bed space and conditioned him to sleep in his own bed space, the more you've given him, full feedings, and he's, growing and thriving. And I don't know, I think the better rested he is at that point, the better he'll be able to cope with the sleep training and the less crying you'll experience. The longer you wait and the fewer self-soothing techniques or methods you've taught him or kind of instilled in him up until that point, it may take longer. Many of the experts and consultants that we've come across have said that a typical sleep training, protocol, essentially letting a baby cry it out for one or more nights, however many nights, until they learn to just, hey, it's time to go to sleep. Daddy gives you a nice kiss, puts you in your crib. Lots of love all day long and all night long. But now with all this love, it's time to sleep, and I'm walking out the door and, not coming back, because we want you to, learn and understand over time that it's sleep time now, and there's, you don't want me to come back because you want to go to sleep too, and that's what we do right now. I lost my train of thought, but the fourth month is kind of the sweet spot for that, because they're able to understand that. And the longer you wait, they will just have more of the self-agency and the power of protest. And you're going to have more of fussiness and resistance on your hand. And imagine if you're trying to sleep train a baby in the second half of the year, 9 months old, 12 months old, or a toddler who's now mobile, may be able to get out of the crib on their own. It becomes more and more difficult. So while it may strike many as very early to do that kind of thing, and I recall that, for example, the What to Expect series of books, they defer sleep training until the second half of the first year. I don't think so. I think if things are proceeding reasonably well and you've listened and watched all the videos that up until this point, but in particular the fourth trimester and sleeping video that I put out, then you'll understand why I agree with Dr. Weisbluth that, in that fourth month, it's kind of a good time. I think he would say sleep training should take place between the fourth and sixth month, and that it becomes harder the longer you wait after that. And even after the fourth month, he kind of, I think somewhere in the book, he drew a kind of a dividing line at the 4-month mark between early, easier time, which is really just that fourth month, and after the fourth month, just increasing difficulty or complexity trying to do sleep training for your kid. What happened in our case, because of the things we had done right up until that point, our sleep training took one night. Our kid cried for maybe 20 minutes that night. In all likelihood, it probably wasn't even that long. It probably wasn't even 15 minutes. At the time, I think we were apprehensive because we didn't know how long it was going to last, and we didn't know what was going to be in store for us the following night and every night after that. And it was difficult to hear him cry. But once he stopped crying and fell asleep, as he was bound to, he didn't wake up again that night. And guess what? Every single night, I swear to you, every night after that, I put this baby down, drowsy but awake. I almost never asleep. He was always awake, and he would just, I walked out of that room, there was no fussing or crying. So much so that I think a few nights in, when we saw how successful it was, usually I would like as I was walking him to his room and to his crib. I remember, like a week into this, dancing out of his room, dancing into the bedroom, dancing with my wife, like shh, 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 because it was so magical and awesome that we just put this kid down. Sound machine was probably on, but like no fussing, no crying. Maybe he didn't fall asleep immediately, but he fell asleep on his own without any fussing or crying. And sometimes he did just fall right asleep like a dream. So that was nighttime sleep training for us. Um, uh, and it worked out beautifully.